As far as general delivery goes, you have to go to a post office that has a postmaster in it. Not all of them do. You have to basically negotiate that delivery, that general delivery, with the postmaster, because if he doesn't put it down properly, I think it has to be titled general post instead of general delivery, because general delivery keeps you still inside the box, keeps you inside the commercial system. So there is more information about this, and we will eventually be getting it up on our website, the RT. It's just going to take a little while.
Okay.
Glenn?
Yes.
Also, in addition to that, the postmaster might have the excuse, we have no receptacle for that. Take him a 5 or 10 gallon tub, Sterlite tub,
Right.
and there's a receptacle.
Right. Yeah, I've heard about that. Yeah, so a general post is something that's valid, and the Republic of Texas is moving ahead with that, and so that is definitely a valid way of doing it. Now, never use a postal code or a zip code, okay? That's all martial law, okay? Stay away from that stuff. Avoid it like the plague. There's Title 18, United States Code, Section 1342, talks about mail fraud, fictitious mailing addresses, proper mail address. That is like really powerful, and I'll be happy to send you, my documents, Word versions, and you can use stuff out of there if you want. I'll even, if you want to do up a document, I'll send you my document. You can manipulate it to however you like it, and send it to me, and I'll look it over and critique it and send it back to you. And so at the end of the day, you're the one that it's your document, and you have to make it up however you want it. So the important thing is I'll help you with it if you need some help. Email, I can't be there when the cops stop you, but I can certainly be there by email and help you out any way I can by email. So you have to pick your battles. Everybody has to pick their battles, and you have to decide how far you're going to carry things. The important thing is, if you lay the proper foundation, they're going to see you and they're going to run the other direction, okay? And that'll eliminate a lot of your problems. So the key is to lay the proper foundation, and then, be wise as a serpent, but harmless as a dove. Okay, isn't that what the scriptures tell us? Wise as a serpent, but harmless as a dove. So, anyways, let's move on. I never use a postal code or a zip code, and I put in my documents that if they do anything but the proper mailing address, then they intend to be guilty of mail fraud. And if you think about it, that's what it is. If they're not using the address that you give them, then that's mail fraud. Matter of fact, I used to get on the IRS when I was dealing with the IRS. I used to get on them about mail fraud because they were sending unsigned documents through the mail. And that's true. That's even mail fraud. You think about that, because they're sending you, it's a solicitation, and from the IRS, and yet nobody's there accepting responsibility for it. Okay, that's mail fraud, big time. And now I know they've changed because they changed. Okay, and now they send stuff. They don't send them unsigned. They make sure that there's somebody on there now. Whether they use pseudonyms, so who the heck it is hard to say. But the point is that, again, if you don't complain, nothing's going to change. Do you have a SIN number or a Social Security number? I don't. Okay, I have an affidavit. My straw man has one. I have an affidavit that I submitted to the Supreme Court when I sued the IRS. I took them to the Supreme Court. In the lower courts, I said, "Where's the contract? I want to talk about the contract. Where's the contract?" And they never ever came back and said, "Here's the contract," or anything about that, right? So, and that's in the district court and court of appeals. So then when it got to the Supreme Court, I said, there is no contract. They're just a bunch of thieves. And on top of that, the U.S. Department of Justice, or I call them the U.S. Department of so-called Justice. Anyways, the U.S. Department of so-called Justice waived their right to respond, okay? And if you understand the courts and how the courts work, if you make an allegation and they don't dispute it, it's admitted as the truth. And so what happened is they admitted everything when they waived their right to respond every time I've gone to the Supreme Court. But you got to understand that when I go to the Supreme Court, I tell them I'm one of the people, and I tell them you have no right to turn this case away, and you have no right to charge me any fees. And And those arguments by themselves, if they let the case proceed without paying of fees, and then they're admitting that I'm right. And I've won the case, okay? I've won the case because the IRS doesn't have a shred of authority over the people. So the Department of Justice had no choice but to waive their right to respond. You see what I'm saying? And so they knew they lost. They knew they lost, so they waived their right to respond. So anyways, what happened is part of that, I submitted an affidavit. I swear under penalty of perjury that I do not have a Social Security number. I have never had a Social Security number. No problem. It's not me. It's a straw man. It's a Sestakay trust is what it is. Okay, so I never use it. Okay, if you have to have one for something, you know, I do have one credit card. Okay, and so I gave it out for that one credit card, and I do have a loan on that truck, or my straw man does. So I gave it out for that. But that's the only time. For work, I never give it out for work. For anything else, the first thing I tell them, passports, I tell the postal clerk, you know it's a felony to compel the disclosure of a Social Security number? All of a sudden they change their tune. Well, okay, we'll process it, but we can't guarantee what's going to happen. And I tell them, yeah, you're damn right you're going to process it, and what happens is none of your concern. And they process it, and we get the passports back in like 2 weeks. No problem. I did that with both of my sons and myself, and I've helped some of the neighbor kids do it too. Anyways, so you don't have to produce a Social Security number for anything. It's a felony to compel the disclosure of a Social Security number, and now it's to the point that the banks are even opening up accounts without Social Security numbers, from what I understand. If you produce, you got to produce ID and stuff like that, and that's why I never, ever, ever give them a driver's license. It's the reason I use a passport all the time. Number one, there's no Social Security number associated with it, and a driver's license there is, right? So if I use a passport, they have their photo ID that they need, and they usually ask for 2 pieces of photo ID. So, you know, then I have to come up, usually I'll give them a company ID or a foreign passport, you know. But you know, anyways, I get the bank account without the Social Security number. I get the passport without the Social Security number. It's not easy. It's a matter of just putting some forethought in it, arranging your affairs, and making plans for how you're going to do it. But I guarantee you, if you have a bank account without a Social Security number, the IRS can't see it. You know, it's like it doesn't appear. Number one. Number two is if you get a bank account without a Social Security number, get it in some city that's a ways away from you. In other words, like if you live here in Garland, get it over in Fort Worth or something like that. You see what I'm saying? Because what happens is the IRS, when they're looking, they're going to look at banks around your area. Okay? They're not going to be looking over in Fort Worth, or get one in Austin or you know, someplace. It doesn't matter. They all deal by mail. Once you have that ATM card and everything, you just do it all online anyways. And they all have branches. If you get an account like with Bank of America over in Fort Worth, well, there's a Bank of America here too, you know. And you get your private mailbox over there somewhere or something like that. You see what I'm saying? And that's the only address you give them. I mean, I'll tell you, you got to start thinking about this stuff. Your private mailbox, when you tell them you're traveling and you want to get a mailbox, what you do is you just tell them, you get a hotel room. Rent a hotel room if you need to, okay? I'm not sure what they require, but that's the last time I did it, is I rented a hotel room and I took the hotel bill in and I said, hey, I'm traveling. I don't know how long I'm going to be here for. I just want to have a mailbox to get my mail. And no problem. Matter of fact, my mailbox, 6340 Lake Worth Boulevard, the address they still have for me is the Days Inn. Okay? Serious. And I've been here for, you know, I've had that mailbox for probably 4 years now. And the address they still have me is Days Inn. And I tell them that that's the only address you're getting. And they don't have a problem with it, you know, because I explain the law to them. And I tell them that really, if you understand the law, it's persons that are required to do that, and I'm not a person. And so, you know, I'm not even required to give you anything. And so, you know, and I tell them, and they don't have a problem with it. It's no problem, eh? Once you understand. And on top of that, you know, you know how there's postal regulations that say that when you have a private mailbox that you have to put PMB in front of your mailbox? Well, I sent a registered letter to the Postmaster General and another one to the local postmaster, and I said that your regulations apply to persons, and if you want to impose that on me, you'll be violating my rights under the color of law because I'm a living soul, and you don't have any authority to impose that on me, and you're trying to intimidate me in violation of Title 18 United States Code Section 241, and I never have a problem. It's amazing how that works. But again, you got to understand the law and assert and get up in their face. Do you know who you are? That's what you got to do. Is you just got to. If you want some help, shoot me an email. If you need I got a bunch of business cards up there. If you want to contact me, you can shoot me an email. I check that email several times a day, and I'll help you any way I can. Okay. So again, you just got to start thinking outside the box and how you're going to protect yourself and arranging your affairs so that you just start being transparent, okay? And that's what will happen is you'll start to disappear, and the